Captain Ilara Voss gripped the armrest of her command chair, the bridge's hum vibrating deep through her bones. The view screen loomed over the forward bulkhead, capturing the swirling nebula that had sheltered them for weeks, now a deadly snare tightening around the ship. Her lean crew worked with honed precision. Lieutenant Kai Ren at navigation, fingers flying across holographic controls. Dr. Mira Solis scanning systems from her station, brow creased in the readout's glow. And young Ensign Tomas Hale at comms, his quiet focus masking raw nerves. Shield status. Ilara asked, her voice slicing through the alert's murmur. She kept her eyes locked on the screen, where faint ripples warped the view like shimmering heat, harbingers of the Krivith closing in. Kai looked up, dark eyes unflinching. 87%, Captain. But the nebula's scrambling sensors. We won't see them coming until they're right on top of us. Mira leaned in, punching commands into her console. Life support steady, but harder engine burns will drain reserves fast. 48 hours tops before the air turns sour. Ilara nodded, options flashing through her mind. The Aurora was a scout ship, designed for stealth, not battle, fitting for humanity's scrappy underdog status among the stars, where grit outshone brute force. The Krivith, those massive insectoid tyrants, viewed human cleverness as an insult to squash. They'd ravaged Sol system, scorching colonies and demanding surrender. Earth's counter? No armadas or warheads, just silent oblivion. She shoved the thought down. Survival first. Hale, any signals breaking through? The ensign shook his head, face taut with youth. Just static, ma'am. They're jamming it all. We're phantoms out here. Ilara's lips curved faintly. Phantoms. Apartment. She unbuckled and rose, striding to the central holomap. It ignited, casting a tangled 3D web of gas clouds and asteroid swirls. Somewhere in that chaos lurked 3 Krivith dreadnoughts, their organic ships morphing like stalking beasts. One misstep, and the Aurora would be vivisected for alien amusement. All right, team, she said, her fingers sketching a daring path. The map throbbed in sync. We can't evade forever. Kai, chart us through the nebula's thickest veil, let the interference cloak us. Mira armed the decoy drones. The Krivitha's archives cradled their empire's essence. Histories, codes, very souls etched in quantum webs. Earth's revenge? A virus to wipe it clean, crumbling their rule from the core. A blaring klaxon ripped the hush. Kai jerked up. Contacts. 3 signatures bearing 047. They're here. The view screen flared with red targeting grids, bathing the bridge in crimson. Ilara's pulse thundered. Evasive. Drones away, now. Decoys jetted out, erupting in false heat and EM flares like void-born fireworks. The Aurora banked hard, dampeners groaning as Krivith lances pierced the nebula, grazing wide, a fleeting grace. But one skimmed the hull, igniting console sparks. Mira swore, overriding frantically. Shields at 60. Kai yelled. Ilara clutched the arms, odds ticking down. The ruse held by a threat. Decoys siphoned shots, stealing breaths. Yet the Krivith evolved swiftly, their vessels throbbing with feral glow. One more strike and oblivion would claim them first. The auxiliary generator's low thrum filled the cramped engineering bay, rattling wall panels with relentless vibration. Marcus swiped sweat from his brow, smearing grease across his forehead. Tension coiled tighter, the bridge a crucible of flickering lights and determined silence. Outside, the fleet pressed closer, their retaliation no longer distant thunder but a closing noose. Ilara's team had stirred the hornet's nest. Now they had to outthink it or become the erased. Captain Ilara Voss gripped the console edge as the Aurora's bridge shuddered under another pulse from the void. Her knuckles whitened but her voice stayed level. Status Reyes. How long until we stabilize? Ensign Marco Reyes, sweat beading on his brow, tapped furiously at his panel. The wiry engineer, always the cautious one, muttered under his breath before replying. Hull integrity at 78%, Captain. That last wave fried the secondary dampeners. We're blind on sensors for another 10 minutes, maybe less if I reroute power from life support. Lieutenant Kira Novak, the team's sharp-tongued xenolinguist, leaned against the bulkhead, arms crossed. Her dark eyes flicked to the viewport, where the swirling nebula masked the alien fleet's approach. 10 minutes? That's generous. Those Krell bastards are toying with us. If we don't hail them soon, they'll assume we're the vanguard for another human push. Elara shot her a glance, the weight of command pressing like the ship's groaning frame. The Krell had struck first, glassing colonies in a bid to erase humanity's frontier claims. Earth's retaliation wasn't fire and fury, it was surgical, a digital virus slipping through their networks, rewriting histories, identities, entire cultures into oblivion. But out here on the edge it was just them. A scout ship cut off with the fate of the sector hanging on their next move. They're not toying, Elara said, straightening. They're probing. Reyes prioritized sensors. Novak prepped the translation matrix. If we can broadcast the Erasure code without them tracing it back, we turn their fleet into ghosts. Reyes nodded, his fingers a blur. Sparks flew from a nearby panel, and he cursed softly, batting them away. The air hummed with the scent of ozone, thick and acrid. Elara felt the deck plates vibrate beneath her boots, a reminder that space wasn't forgiving. One wrong shunt of power, and they'd vent atmosphere into the nebula's embrace. Novak activated the holo display, lines of alien script flickering to life. The code's embedded in their command protocols now, thanks to the relay from Sol. But broadcasting it raw? They'll detect the anomaly before it propagates. We need a carrier, something innocuous like a distress beacon. Elara's mind raced. The initial plan had been simple. Slip into the nebula, deploy the virus via stealth drone. But the Krell had anticipated, their interceptors forcing the Aurora into evasive maneuvers that drained the reserves. Now, with shields flickering, evasion was a luxury they couldn't afford. Distress beacon it is, Elara decided. Make it look like we're surrendering data logs. Reyes, can you mask the signal? He hesitated, wiping his forehead with his sleeve. I can try. But it'll take juice from the engines. If they close in fast, we're sitting ducks. The ship lurched again, claxons blaring. Through the viewport, a Krell corvette emerged from the gas clouds, its angular hull gleaming like a predator's scale. Energy lanced out, grazing the Aurora as flank. Alarms wailed, another hull breach. Impact on port side. Reyes shouted. Sealing it now. Elara braced as the inertial dampeners lagged, her stomach flipping. Novak stumbled forward, catching herself on the console. They're hailing us. Audio only, standard intimidation tactic. Patch it through, Elara ordered, her pulse steady despite the chaos. She wouldn't show fear, not to her crew, not to the enemy. The speakers crackled, a guttural voice filtered through the matrix. Human vessel, you trespass in Krell space. Transmit coordinates of your fleet, or we erase your existence. Novak's translation overlaid seamlessly, her fingers hovering over controls. She whispered to Elara, that's our window. Slip the code in the response. Elara nodded, leaning into the comm. This is Captain Elara Voss of the Aurora. We're a survey ship, damaged and adrift. Transmitting logs now, coordinates included. As she spoke, Novak wove the virus into the stream, a subtle rewrite disguised as fragmented data. Reyes diverted power, the bridge lights dimming to a reddish glow. The transmission pulsed out, vanishing into the nebula. Seconds stretched. The Krell corvette loomed closer, weapons charging with the ominous hum audible even through the hull. Then, Reyes's panel lit up. It's working. Their systems are glitching, look at the scans. They're rewriting their own NAV data. Novak grinned, a rare flash of wit breaking through. Erasure in action. No explosions, just nothing. But the Triumph soured fast. The corvette fired wildly, its shots veering off as internal conflicts tore through its core. Yet another ship, larger, pierced the nebula behind it. A Krell destroyer, untouched, locking weapons. Captain, Reyes said, voice tight. The virus hasn't reached the flagship yet. And our engines are offline. We're exposed. Elara's jaw set. The cost was already mounting. A breached hull meant rationing air, and the nebula's radiation was seeping in. They had bought time, but the real fight was just igniting. Novak analyzed their command frequency. Reyes, give me auxiliary thrusters. We adapt or we vanish. The bridge fell into focused silence, broken only by the ship's creaks and the distant roar of incoming fire. Outside, the nebula churned, indifferent to the fragile dance of survival. Captain Elena Vasquez gripped the console edge as the ship's alarms blared, a relentless pulse that matched her heartbeat. The bridge lights flickered, casting long shadows over the faces of her crew. Dr. Liam Kerr, the wiry engineer with a perpetual squint from years in engine bays, and Sergeant Mira Voss, whose scarred hands flexed instinctively toward a weapon that wasn't there. They'd been pushing the battered frigate Endurance through the nebula's edge for hours, dodging what they thought were just sensor ghosts. Now the reality hit, the Krell swarm had found them. "Shields at 30%, Liam reported, his voice steady but laced with the strain of rerouting power on the fly. He wiped sweat from his brow, fingers dancing over holographic displays that sputtered like faulty holograms. The nebula's ionized gases were playing havoc with their systems, turning every scan into a gamble. Elena nodded, her mind racing through contingencies. The Krell weren't the explosive types. Their ships dissolved hulls with precision nanites, erasing vessels from existence without a trace. That's what had taken the fleet, poof, gone like they'd never been. Mira leaned forward, her eyes narrowing at the viewport where faint silhouettes multiplied against the swirling purple haze. "They're flanking us, Cap. If we don't punch through, they'll box us in. That early plan of yours, using the nebula to mask our jump, it's backfiring. Their drones are adapting faster than we thought." Elena felt the weight of it. The plan had seemed solid back on the outpost. Slip into the nebula, let its interference scramble Krell sensors, then hyperspace out to rendezvous with the remnants of Earth's defense grid. But the swarm's AI evolved in real time, learning from every evasion. One drone had latched onto their exhaust trail, and now the whole pack was closing. A real cost loomed, not just the ship but the data core in the hold carrying the prototype Erasure field schematics. If the Krell got that, humanity's last shot at turning the tables evaporated. "Options?" Elena asked, keeping her tone even, though her knuckles whitened on the console. Liam glanced up, his cautious nature shining through as he hesitated. "We could vent plasma to create a false signature, draw them off. But it'll fry our maneuvering thrusters for a good 10 minutes. Risky in this soup." Mira snorted, her brave streak pushing back. "Or we fight. I've got charges prepped in the torpedo base. Load M with scrap from the med bay, make improvised EMP bursts. Hit their lead ships, buy us time." Elena waited, the air thick with the hum of straining engines. The nebula's glow painted eerie patterns on the bulkhead, like veins pulsing in the void. She remembered the briefings. Krell didn't conquer, they unmade. Planetside colonies had vanished overnight, populations scrubbed from reality by fields that rewrote matter at the atomic level. Earth's retaliation wasn't about bombs, it was about countering that with a weapon born from human grit, pieced together in hidden labs while the swarm overran the outer rims. Both, Elena decided, her voice cutting through the din. Liam prepped the vent. Mira armed the torps. "But we adapt. If the drones swarm the decoy, we double back through the dense core. It's suicide for them. Their hulls can't take the radiation like ours can." Liam's eyes widened, but he nodded, already keen commands. "Modifying the core now. It'll hold, just." Mira clapped Elena on the shoulder, a rare grin cracking her stoic facade. "That's why you're the Cap. Let's show these erasers what sticking around looks like." The ship shuddered as the first volley of nanite clouds brushed their shields, a faint hiss echoing through the hull like acid on metal. Elena strapped in, the viewport filling with the swarm's approach, sleek, angular forms weaving through the gas clouds, silent predators. Tension coiled in her gut, but she pushed it down. This wasn't the end, it was the pivot. The Endurance groaned, power surging to the vents, and Elena hit the sequence. Plasma erupted from the stern in a brilliant arc, blooming like a false star amid the nebula. The drones veered, a cluster breaking off toward the lure. Mira hooped from the weapons station as the first EMP torpedo launched, streaking into the fray. It detonated with a silent flash, scrambling a dozen drones into erratic spins, their formations fracturing. For a moment it worked. The bridge lights steadied, the alarms dipping to a wary tone. But then the sensors lit up again, the main swarm adjusting, predictive algorithms locking onto their true vector. A larger shadow detached from the pack, its silhouette promising erasure on a scale that made Elena's blood run cold. The core loomed ahead, a roiling heart of radiation that would test the Endurance to her limits. "Brace," Elena commanded, her hands steady on the controls. The ship dove, the nebulous fury swallowing them whole. Captain Elara Voss gripped the console's edge, her knuckles whitening as the holographic display flickered with incoming data streams. The alien ship's core was unraveling faster than anticipated, but so was their escape window. Beside her, Jax murmured calculations under his breath, his fingers dancing across the auxiliary panel like a pianist in a storm. "We've got 30 seconds before their firewalls regenerate," he said, voice steady despite the sweat beading on his brow. "If we don't sync the Erasure protocol now, it'll bounce back and trace us to the fleet." She nodded, eyes locked on the pulsing code. The plan had seemed foolproof back on the outpost. Deploy a mimetic virus, not bombs, but something insidious that would rewrite the invaders' neural networks, erasing their command structure from the inside out. No explosions, just quiet oblivion. But here, deep in the heart of their flagship, the reality was messier. The virus had taken hold, yes, but the aliens' adaptive AI was fighting back, spawning digital sentinels that clawed at their intrusion. "Drake, status on the breach?" Elara called over the comms, her voice cutting through the hum of straining engines. From the engineering bay, Drake's gravelly reply crackled. "Holding cap. But these corridors are crawling with security drones. Took out 3, but they're adapting, learning our patterns. We need that backdoor open yesterday." Jax hit the final sequence, and the hologram bloomed with green threads weaving through red barriers. "It's in. Virus is propagating. Their logs are wiping clean, command hierarchy dissolving like sugar in rain." He leaned back, exhaling sharply, but Elara saw the flicker of doubt in his eyes. The cost was already mounting. Earlier they'd lost contact with the secondary team, their signals swallowed by the void. Alarms blared suddenly, a shrill wail that made Elara's heart lurch. The display shifted, a counter-intrusion protocol, alien code surging like a tidal wave. "They're onto us," she snapped, slamming her palm on the override. The ship shuddered, gravity fluctuating as bulkheads groaned. Jax cursed, rerouting power, but it wasn't enough. A virtual tendril snaked toward their node, threatening to expose the human origin of the attack. "Adapt or die," Elara muttered, channeling the old Earth adage. She pulled up a subroutine she jury-rigged from scavenged alien tech, a mimicry algorithm designed to impersonate their own systems. Jax feed it false echoes. Make it think the breach is internal sabotage, not us. He hesitated for a split second, then nodded, his wits surfacing in the grin that cracked his tension. Clever. Turning their paranoia against them. His hands flew, injecting phantom logs of crew dissent, fabricated betrayals that the AI couldn't ignore. The tendril paused, then diverted, chasing ghosts through the ship's digital veins. Drake's voice broke in again, urgent. "Drones incoming, I've got a path to the shuttle bay, but it's tight. You two better hustle." Elara stood, grabbing her sidearm. The erasure was working. She could feel the shift in the air, the subtle hum of the ship faltering as orders fragmented across decks. But victory tasted bittersweet. The aliens wouldn't explode in fiery defeat, no heroic blast to rally the colonies. Instead, their empire would fade into confused silence, leaders forgotten, fleets adrift. And humanity? They'd bear the scars, outposts abandoned, allies sacrificed. As she and Jax bolted for the corridor, blaster fire echoing behind, Elara wondered if Erasure was mercy or just another layer of war's quiet horror. Lena's fingers flew across the holographic interface, the dim glow casting sharp shadows on her face as the shuttle hummed through the void. The alien ship's underbelly loomed ahead, a jagged scar in the black expanse where their defenses had thinned. Marco hunched beside her, sweat beading on his brow despite the recycled air's chill. "This backdoor code, it's holding, but if they patch it remotely, we're ghosts in the machine." She nodded, jaw set. The plan had been simple. Slip in like a whisper, deploy the Erasure protocol from within their central nexus. No blasts, no alarms, just a silent unraveling of their command structure, line by line, until the invasion fleet forgot its own orders. But simplicity cracked under pressure. Their initial probe had triggered a subroutine, locking out half the auxiliary systems. Now, with the shuttle clamped to the hull, every second ticked like a fuse. "Jordan, status?" Lena's voice cut through the comms, steady but edged with the strain of holding it together. From the rear compartment, Jordan's reply crackled back, his cautious tone laced with frustration. "Breaches sealed, but the hull's vibrating, feels like they're scanning for intruders. If we don't sink the payload in the next 2 minutes, it'll self-destruct before we even touch their core." Marco cursed under his breath, rerouting power through a jury-rigged bypass. His hands, calloused from years in the labs, danced with precision, but doubt flickered in his eyes. He'd always been the clever one, the guy who turned scrap into salvation, but this? Erasing an empire's digital soul wasn't like hot-wiring a drone. It was carving out the heart without spilling a drop of blood. The shuttle shuddered as docking clamps engaged with a metallic groan. Lena stood, checking her suit's seals, form-fitting alloy weave, no weapons, just the slim injector pod at her belt. "We go silent from here. Marco, you feed the virus through the port. Jordan, cover the exit." No heroics. They moved as one, a trio honed by months of desperate drills back on the fractured remnants of Earth. The airlock hissed open, revealing the alien corridor, walls pulsing with bioluminescent veins, air thick with an ozone tang that clawed at their filters. Lena led, her boots magnetized to the deck, each step a calculated press against the hum of unknown machinery. Halfway to the Nexus chamber, the lights flickered. A low chime echoed, and from the shadows a security drone detached, sleek, spider-like, its sensors whirring to life. Marco froze, whispering, "That's not in the schematics." Adaptive patrol. Jordan spun, his multi-tool arming with a soft whir, but Lena waved him down. "No noise. Marco, hack it." He knelt, interface gloves sinking to the drone's underbelly port. Code streamed across his visor, alien script twisting like smoke. His mind raced, piecing together the patterns from stolen fragments. A clever feint, mirror their patrol logic back at them, make it think we're maintenance crew. Sweat stung his eyes as he inverted the subroutine, fingers trembling just once. The drone paused, sensors dimming, then scuttled away into a side vent. Jordan exhaled sharply. That was too close. "If it alerts the hive mind, it won't," Lena cut in, pushing forward. But inside the weight pressed heavier. Earth's retaliation hinged on this, not fury but finesse. One slip, and the erasure became exposure. They'd lose the fleet's coordinates, the override keys, everything. And with comms blacked out, no one back home would know if they vanished. The Nexus loomed, a cavernous sphere where data streams converged like rivers into an ocean. Lena jacked in first, the pod's needle piercing the interface with a faint click. The virus bloomed in her display, tendrils of code designed to rewrite, not destroy. Erase the invasion directives, plant false memories of retreat, let the aliens drift into oblivion. But as the upload began, alarms blared softly in the distance. Jordan's voice tightened over the private channel. "Incoming patrol, 3 units, closing fast. Marco, we need that back door open now." Marco's grin was fierce, all wit masking the grit. "Working on it. Just give me, there." A panel slid open, revealing an escape conduit. But the upload lagged, resistance building like a dam against the flood. Lena pulled the plug halfway, eyes narrowing. "It's fighting back. Adaptive firewall. We adapt or we die here." Jordan hauled gear toward the conduit, his cautious nature yielding to the moment's demand. "Then we overload it, force the breach." "No," Marco snapped, already splicing lines. "We finesse. Loop their own security against it." His solution unfolded. A recursive echo, turning the firewall into an amplifier for the virus itself. The patrol drone skittered into view, lasers priming. Lena fired a low-yield EMP from her gauntlet, not to kill but to stun, buying seconds. The code surged, erasure taking hold. Screens flickered, alien glyphs dissolving into static. They piled into the conduit as the Nexus dimmed, the ship's hum faltering. But as the shuttle detached, a new alert pierced the void, reinforcements inbound. The erasure had begun, but the cost lingered, a fragment of their pod left behind, a breadcrumb in the dark. Earth's grit had bought time, but the hunt was on. Elena gripped the console's edge, her knuckles whitening as the ship's alarms pulsed a steady red. The bridge hummed with the low growl of failing systems, but it was the silence from the comms that clawed at her gut. Marcus hunched over his jury-rigged panel, fingers dancing across exposed circuits, sweat beading on his brow. "Come on, you stubborn beast," he muttered, voice laced with that familiar wry edge. "Don't quit on me now." Kira stood at the tactical display, her eyes narrowed, scanning the holographic swirl of enemy signatures closing in. The Vexery fleet had anticipated their feint, damned their predictive algorithms, and now the trap snapped shut. The Erasure protocol, Earth's subtle revenge, was meant to unravel the aliens' neural networks from within, deleting their command structure like a virus in the code of reality itself. No explosions, no glory in fire, just quiet oblivion. But they'd gotten too close, too fast, and the backlash was frying their own shields. "Shields at 20%, Kira reported, her tone clipped, cautious as ever. She didn't glance up. Trust in the moment meant focus, not comfort. "They've locked quantum torpedoes. Impact in 90 seconds. Elena nodded, forcing her voice steady. Brave didn't mean fearless, it meant choosing the fear that served. "Marcus, status on the countermeasure?" He yanked the cable free, sparks flying like angry fireflies. "Almost there. The Erasure wave's rebounding, but if I reroute through the auxiliary core we can flip it back on them. Buy us time." His wit surfaced in the grin he flashed her way, even as the ship shuddered. "Think of it as returning the favor with interest." The deck tilted violently, inertial dampeners whining in protest. Elena braced against the bulkhead, the acrid scent of overheating relays filling the air. Outside the viewport, Vexery cruisers loomed like shadowed monoliths, their hulls etched with bioluminescent veins that pulsed in eerie rhythm. One striking image burned into her mind, a torpedo streaking past, close enough to etch a scar of plasma across their flank, the void blooming with fleeting light. 60 seconds, Kira said, her fingers hovering over the evasion controls. She hesitated, the cautious pull warring with necessity. Maneuvering now could expose our ventral array, the one holding the protocol. "Do it," Elena ordered. No room for debate, the stakes were etched in every flickering light. The ship lurched as Kira fired thrusters, weaving through the debris of a shattered asteroid, their initial cover now just shrapnel in the storm. Marcus slammed his palm on the panel. "Got it." Wave inverting, firing. A low hum built, vibrating through the hull as the Erasure signal reversed course. It wasn't brute force, it was precision, humans turning the aliens' own synaptic tech against them. The Vexery ships faltered, their formation stuttering like a glitch in the Matrix. One cruiser veered wildly, its lights dimming as internal systems unraveled. But the cost hit hard. Alarms blared anew, their own core was destabilizing, the rebound tearing at the ship's vitals. Elena felt the deck plates groan beneath her boots, a tangible reminder that ingenuity had limits. "Damage report?" Kira's face tightened. "Life support failing in engineering. If we don't vent the overload, it'll cascade to the bridge." Marcus straightened, wiping grease from his hands, his wit tempered by resolve. "I'll handle it. Suit up, both of you. Get the protocol to the relay buoy before this tub becomes space junk." Elena met his gaze, the camaraderie unspoken but ironclad. They'd come this far on grit, on choices like this. "Not without you." He chuckled short and sharp. "Flattery later. Go." As Kira and Elena dashed for the airlock, the ship bucked again. Through the small porthole, Elena caught a glimpse of the Vexery lead ship fracturing, segments peeling away into the black like forgotten code. Erasure in motion, Earth's quiet fury. But behind them, Marcus's silhouette lingered at the console, a lone figure buying their shot at tomorrow. The airlock cycled with a hiss, cold vacuum beckoning. Kira clipped her tether first, her voice steady over the suit comm buoys in range. "But if the fleet recovers?" "They won't," Elena said, pushing off into the void. Stars wheeled around them, indifferent witnesses. The risk was real, detection meant erasure for them too, personal and final. Yet as the buoy's docking lights flickered to life, Elena felt the tension coil tighter, the adventure's edge sharpening. One more push, and humanity's retaliation would echo through the stars, not in thunder but in the hush of absence. Captain Reyes gripped the console edge as the shuttle shuddered through the nebulous fringes, the violet haze outside the viewport twisting like living smoke. Her fingers ached from the strain, but she didn't let go. Letting go meant admitting the plan was fraying, and they couldn't afford that now. Beside her, Dr. Lena Voss hunched over the jury-rigged interface, her glasses slipping down her nose as she muttered calculations under her breath. "The erasure field's stabilizing," she said, voice tight but steady. "But if we push the emitters any harder, we'll burn out the core before we reach the relay." In the co-pilot's seat, Jax Harlan shot her a grin that didn't reach his eyes, his hands dancing across the auxiliary controls. The wiry engineer had been cracking wise since they launched from the battered colony ship, but now his jokes had dried up, replaced by the focused grit that had kept them alive through 3 ambushes already. "Then we don't push," he replied, flipping a switch with deliberate calm. "We glide. Like we're sneaking into a bar after last call." The external challenge had started as a whisper, a rival fleet from the Vexery Concord, their sleek cruisers enforcing a blockade that starved the outer colonies of vital isotopes. But it escalated when their lead ship detected the humans' covert project. Not weapons but a subtle rewrite of the galaxy's navigation nets, an erasure that would ghost Earth's signals from enemy scopes without a shot fired. The cost was already tallied, 2 scouts lost, Lena's arm in a sling from shrapnel, and the stakes climbed with every minute they delayed. Reyes nodded, her dark eyes scanning the readouts. Brave to a fault, she'd volunteered for this run knowing the nebula's interference could fry their systems mid-jump. "Glide it is. Voss, sync the field to the relay's frequency." "Harlan, eyes on those patrols, they're vectoring in." The shuttle dipped, engines humming low as they wove through a cluster of debris, the purple glow casting long shadows across the cabin. Lena's fingers flew, adapting the code on the fly. One wrong variable and the erasure would backfire, painting them as the brightest target in the sector. "Got it?" she breathed, cautious optimism threading her words. "Field's live in 30. But the Vexery's got a probe on our tail, closing fast." Jax twisted in his seat, peering at the rear sensors. "Probe? That's their fancy word for, we're about to get zapped. Evasive pattern delta?" His tone was light, but his knuckles whitened on the yoke. "Do it," Reyes ordered, the word clipped like a blade. The shuttle banked hard, gravity tugging at their harnesses as they skimmed the asteroid's craggy side, the rock's surface a stark silhouette against the nebula's swirl. Alarms blipped, the probe's lock wavering, but it held, a persistent shadow in pursuit. Sweat beaded on Lena's forehead. 15 seconds. If we don't shake it, the field deploys blind. Harlan's mind raced, the witty facade cracking under pressure. He jury-rigged half their gear from scrap, turning a mining drone into a decoy mid-flight earlier that week. Now he jabbed a sequence into the panel. Deploying chaff. Old Earth trick, confused the sensors with junk echoes. A hatch hissed open astern, spewing metallic confetti into the void. The probe veered, its readings flooding with ghosts. Lock broken, Reyes confirmed, exhaling sharply. The shuttle straightened, arrowing toward the relay station's faint beacon, a skeletal spire orbiting a gas giant's rim. Tension coiled in the air, thick as the nebula's dust. One early plan had failed spectacularly back at the colony, when their initial hack alerted the Vexery instead of cloaking them. This adaptation had to stick. Lena leaned back as the countdown hit 0, her sling arm trembling slightly. "Field's propagating. Erasing our signatures, now." The console flickered, then steadied, the viewport's display shifting as invisible waves rippled outward, rewriting data streams across light years. But the probe recovered, its signal piercing the chaff like a needle. A warning chime escalated, incoming fire. Jax yanked the controls, the shuttle spinning into a barrel roll that pressed them into their seats. They're not buying the ghost story. Reyes unstrapped, moving to the tactical station with fluid grace. Target its emitter array. Voss, reinforce the field around us, buy us time. Her voice carried the weight of command, earnest in its resolve, no room for doubt. Lena nodded, fingers blurring again while Jax lined up the shot. The laser lanced out, a precise blue streak that clipped the probe's flank. It exploded in a silent bloom of fire, debris scattering like startled birds. The shuttle pressed on, the relay looming larger, its antennas glinting coldly. As they docked with a metallic clunk, the team exchanged glances, camaraderie forged in the heat of near misses. But Reyes knew the Erasure's full deployment would leave traces, the Vexery would adapt, and the colony's isolation wouldn't lift overnight. The cost lingered, a shadow on their triumph as they stepped into the relay's humming core. The bridge of the Aurora's dawn hummed with a fragile quiet, the kind that follows a storm's fury. Captain Elara Voss gripped the armrests of her command chair, her knuckles still white from the hours of evasion. The view screen flickered, showing the void where the Kroth fleet had been, gone, not scattered, not destroyed, but simply unwritten. Earth's retaliation had unfolded like a shadow slipping through cracks in reality, erasing the invaders not with fire or fury, but with precision that left no trace. Beside her, Lieutenant Kai Ren leaned against the console, his usual wry grin replaced by a haunted stare. He'd been the one to interface with the quantum eraser prototype, his fingers dancing over holographic keys as the device hummed to life. "It's done," he murmured, voice rough from disuse. "The last signatures are fading. They never existed here." Elara nodded, but her eyes lingered on the sensor readouts. The Kroth Armada, that sprawling nightmare of biomechanical horrors, had come to claim Sol's remnants after the first wave decimated Mars colonies. Billions gone in blinks of plasma fire. Earth's survivors, scattered, desperate, had poured everything into this. A weapon born of forbidden physics, twisting probability until the enemy became a footnote in some alternate history. No explosions, no glory. Just absence. But victory tasted like ash. "What about the echoes?" she asked, turning to Dr. Mira Solon, who stood at the rear, her lab coat smeared with coolant from the overtaxed core. Mira adjusted her glasses, the lenses reflecting the dim starlight. "The eraser's feedback loop is stabilizing, but there are ripples. Temporal harmonics. We might have pruned more than just their fleet." Her voice held the caution of someone who'd seen simulations fracture into paradoxes. Brave in the lab, but here, on the edge, she was the anchor, the one who reminded them of cost. Kai pushed off the console, pacing the narrow deck. "Ripples? Like what? Ghosts of the dead coming back? Or us blinking out next?" His wit had sharpened into something brittle, a defense against the weight. A soft chime interrupted, the ship's AI piping up in its neutral tone. Anomalous readings from the outer belt. Debris patterns inconsistent with known events. Elara rose, her boots thudding softly on the grated floor. The external challenge they'd faced, the Krotha's relentless pursuit through asteroid fields, their boarding pods like locusts, felt distant now, resolved not by grit alone, but by a gamble that could unravel time itself. She'd led her crew through the chaos, Kai's quick hacks dodging tractor beams, Myra's frantic recalibrations when the eraser overheated, their arguments echoing in the corridors. "It's suicide," he'd yelled. "It's survival," she'd countered. Now, as the Aurora drifted toward the anomaly, Elara felt the lingering consequence settle. The view screen zoomed on a cluster of rocks, tumbling in patterns that defied gravity. Among them, faint outlines shimmered, silhouettes of ships that shouldn't be, echoes of the erased. "Captain," Mira said, stepping forward, her hand on Elara's shoulder. A rare touch, born of shared exhaustion. "We can't chase every shadow. The eraser worked. Earth is safe for now." Kai snorted, but there was no humor in it. "Safe? We just played God with history. What's the cost when the bill comes due?" Elara met their eyes, her resolve hardening like forged steel. "Brave, yes, but tempered by the losses. The colony feeds gone silent, friends vaporized. We adapt. Scan it, log it, and plot course home. If ripples come, we face them together." The ship hummed onward, the anomaly slipping behind like a half-remembered dream. In the quiet, Elara allowed herself a breath. Triumph earned but fragile, Erasure's gift and its curse. Sol's light beckoned ahead, a promise scarred but unbroken.